I've told you before that I believe in my heart that Barack Obama is an anti-Semite. I really do. And the idea that there are Jewish groups and Jewish individuals who work for him and support him and will vote Democrat no matter what is really quite appalling to me as a Jew. It just is. And I'm sure Catholics think that way about liberal Catholics and so forth and so on. But I want you to listen to this. I've warned about this before. I want you to listen. This is a tiny little country, a parliamentary democracy, surrounded by the most heinous types of organizations and countries. Tiny country that produces all kinds of inventions and products and medical devices and medicines and so forth. Just trying to live. People there just trying to survive and actually prosper. In the middle of really a hellhole, in my humble opinion. And the idea that only Arabs and Muslims should live where Judaism was founded, where Christianity was founded, is just so repulsive to me. We should just surrender this part of the world. Why? Because Barack Obama says so. He's been so good for peace and humanity in the area, hasn't he? Well, listen to this in the Wall Street Journal today. Fears grow of a final day's presidential ambush at the UN. Obama's Israel surprise, ? Not against Cuba, North Korea, Iran, China, Russia. No, he kicks this tiny little ally around. The Jews. The Middle East has few bright spots these days, but one is the budding rapprochement between Israel and its Sunni Arab neighbors, including Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, thanks to shared threats from Iran and Islamic State. Now the Obama administration may have plans to wreck even that. Israeli diplomats gird for the possibility that President Obama may try to force a diplomatic resolution for Israel and the Palestinians at the United Nations. The White House has been unusually tight-lipped about what, if anything, it might have in mind. Of course, it's going to wait for the election to be over. But our sources say the White House has asked the State Department to develop an options menu for the president's final weeks. This is what fascists do. And Obama is a soft fascist. He wishes he could be a hardcore fascist. And he said as much to the Chinese. Remember that? About their system? One possibility would be to sponsor or at least allow a UN Security Council resolution condemning Israeli settlement construction, perhaps alongside new IRS regulations revoking the tax-exempt status of people or entities involved in the settlement building. The administration vetoed such a resolution in 2011 on grounds that it, quote, risks hardening the position of both sides, unquote, which remains true. But condemning the settlements has always been a popular way of scoring points against the Jewish state, not least at the State Department, and an anti-settlement resolution might burnish Mr. Obama's progressive brand for his post-presidency. Mr. Obama may also seek formal recognition of a Palestinian state at the Security Council. This would run afoul of Congress's long-standing view that so-called Palestine does not have the internationally recognizable attributes of statehood, including a defined territory and effective government, though Obama could overcome the objection through his usual expedient of an executive action, thereby daring the next president to reverse him. I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that this cancer that is the Democrat Party, that this cancer that is Obama and Clinton, that this cancer that is Kerry, needs to be dealt with. Are we going to surrender this country to these people? It goes on. Both actions would be a boon to the bullies in the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, BDS, while also subjecting Israeli citizens and supporters abroad to new and more aggressive forms of legal harassment. It could even criminalize the Israeli army and every reservist who serves in it on the theory that it is illegally occupying a foreign state. Does Mr. Obama want to be remembered as the president who criminalized Israeli citizenship? Sure, why not? He's the president who unleashed genocide in Iraq. The worst option would be an effort to introduce a resolution at the UN Security Council setting quote-unquote parameters for a final settlement between Israel and the Palestinians. The French have been eager to do this for some time. Well, of course. And one option for the administration would be to let the resolution pass simply by refusing to veto it. Or the U.S. could introduce the resolution itself, all the better to take credit for it. Because as you know, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about Obama, his legacy, all about him. As the old line has it, this would be worse than a crime. It would be a blunder. U.S. policy has long and wisely been that only Israelis and Palestinians can work out a peace agreement between themselves. That efforts to impose one would be counterproductive. Whatever parameters the UN established will be unacceptable to any Israeli government, left or right, thereby destroying whatever is left of a peace camp in Israel. The Palestinians would seize on those parameters as their birthright, making it impossible for any future Palestinian leader to bargain part of them away in serious negotiation. Arab states would find their diplomatic hands tied, making it impossible to serve as useful intermediaries between Jerusalem and Ramallah, could refreeze relations with Israel, even as they finally seem to have thawed. Obama may be the last man on earth to get the memo, but after decades of fruitless efforts to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it might be wiser for the U.S. to step back until the Palestinians recognize that peace cannot be imposed from the outside. If Obama is still seeking a Middle East legacy at this late stage in his presidency, his best move is to do nothing to make it worse. He's a very dangerous man. Narcissist, nihilist, extremist. Worst of the worst. The Democrat Party has become increasingly anti-Semitic. Our college campuses have become increasingly anti-Semitic. You can just feel it. It almost feels like the late 1920s, doesn't it? Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton wants more and more refugees to come into this country from Syria. How do you think those folks will vote one day? No, it's very humanitarian, don't you know, to bring in all the world's people into the United States? Yes, just ask the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Nation of immigrants, you know. But we're filled with a nation of idiots, starting with most of the people who keep saying we're a nation of immigrants. You're not a nation of immigrants. I've said this a long time ago. It's now been coined. Ought to wind up in Webster's or somewhere. You're a nation of citizens. I mean, you're a nation of immigrants. Where do the idiots even come up with that phrase? You know, we're a nation of immigrants. No, we're not. We're a nation of citizens. Citizens. Some immigrants could become citizens. A nation of immigrants? What the hell does that mean? Well, where did your parents come from? Doesn't matter. I'm a citizen.